converted man here. Welcome to looking at a skeptical course part whatever. I don't know. All other religions except for mine are real. So, last time somebody commented that I need a better camera angle and that if I get a better camera angle, I'll get 10 times the amount of viewers that I would otherwise. So I'm pretty sure that this is what he had in mind. So this camera angle is their fault. All right. So Pastor is going to talk about other religions. Pastor Darren, I don't know, Latham, can't pronounce his name, whatever, doesn't matter. He's going to tell us about other religions in this week. Sure. Now I'm going to make some predictions. I predict that regarding explaining other religions, that Pastor will say, first, positives about Christianity. He'll be like, that Christianity explains more about the universe. That's one prediction I'm making. That Christianity has more writings than any other religion out there, or that it got popular faster, the spread of it, that it's the only one supported by so much history, that it's unique. I think that we're going to hear that Christianity is unique among all the other religions. I think that in regards to religions that have followed Christianity, they're just borrowing from Christianity. So, Jehovah's Witnesses, Latter-day Saints, all that stuff, Mormons, all that, that's all copycats, right? And Pastor will say that, and then as far as, Islam's just a copycat, just an offshoot of Christianity. In regards to Judaism, it's like, well, if you're going to be a Jew, you might as well be a Christian, because that's really, they were waiting for that. They just missed it, I guess, somehow. And religions that came before Judaism will just be kind of shrugged off or ignored completely. I don't think that we will really get deep into them or what their claims are or what they think is true. I think that Pastor will focus primarily on how well supported Christianity is and how that it better explains the universe or makes sense of historical events or whatever. That's my prediction, at any rate. I don't know at all. I have no idea what Pastor's going to say or not, but I'm making those predictions. I think uniqueness, I think it well attested to, explains this historical stuff better, explains reality better. More people wrote about it, stuff like that. I don't think it will be anything remarkable, and I certainly don't think that he'll explain. Maybe he'll say that other religions are man-made or that they're because of devils and demons. I don't know that he'll go that route, though. We'll see. So let's find out if any of my predictions come true, and if so, then obviously I'm a prophet, and if not, then I'm still a prophet, because why not? Any rate, so let's go and check it out, and maybe my camera angle will be restored to normal by the time we get back. Maybe not. Let's listen in and see what's going on here.
A man hated his wife's cat. I mean, this cat had serious attitude. And so the guy decided that he was going to get rid of the cat. So he secretly drove about 20 blocks from home, opened the car door, dropped the cat by the side of the road, and drove away. But by the time that he got home, the cat was already walking up the driveway. I mean, he couldn't believe it. So the next day, he decided that he was secretly going to try to do this again. But this time, he dropped the cat off 40 blocks from home, got back in the car, but the same thing happened. The cat managed to find its way home again. So the third day, he determined he was going to make things as complicated as possible. So without his wife knowing a thing, he blindfolded the cat, put it in the trunk of his car, then drove around for 2 hours, turning left, turning right, driving in circles, driving all over the place until he ended up several miles from home. He then opened the car door, took the blindfold off the cat, dropped it by the...
Why are we talking about a cat? Okay, now in my description on this video, I predicted other things, or I said that we'll get things from Pastor, and one of those things was stories that are made up, or that are supposed to be like analogies or whatever. This is one of those. Just, I don't, why are you talking about a cat? What the hell are you talking about? What does this have to do with religion at all? Who knows? I'm gonna guess here that the cat is like a religion or something. I don't know. Okay, this guy is stupid. He left the cat finds its way home, blah, blah, blah. Just drown the fucking cat.
So complicated that he got lost. And after a couple hours of not being able to figure out where he was, he called his wife. And he said, honey, is the cat there? And she said, yes. Why do you ask? He says, can you put him on the phone? I'm lost. I need directions.
What?
Well, we're continuing in our Skeptic course, a course that's designed to give some directions in life. And we're asking and answering some foundational questions about life, about God, and
that whole thing was completely pointless. The whole thing was to set up a really bad joke about the course being how to get directions. The fuck? Whatever.
And Christianity. Now, we began this series with the question, what is the evidence for the existence of God?
I like that he goes over what's already been, because it gives me a chance to go over what I've already done. So by evidence, he of course means bad arguments, because he didn't give us any evidence at all.
And we proposed that evening that God is the best explanation for the existence of a contingent universe, meaning...
And that's not the case, but even if it was, that doesn't mean that God is the explanation. How do you determine best? Anyways, we went over that. He doesn't give a system of how to determine good, bad, best. So it's arbitrary as far as I can tell. Magic explains the universe. It's the best explanation. It explains everything. And you don't have to explain magic, of course, because it just explains everything. You don't need to explain the explanation. But this whole idea of the best explanation to any given thing is purely a theistic sort of motif. Maybe you'll find it in other philosophies as well. You won't find it in logic, though, because it just either the thing works or it doesn't. There's no grading system. There's no good or bad in that. It's just arguments that work or arguments that don't work. Either it works or it doesn't. That's it. It's very binary, very simple. It's an on-off thing. Either your argument sucks or it doesn't suck. That's it. But here, it's like, it's the best thing. No, it's not. Anyways.
A universe that doesn't have to exist, a universe that had a beginning.
No.
We learned that God is the best explanation for the fine-tuning of the universe.
No.
We learned that God is the best explanation for the existence of objective moral values and duties. And
Nope.
God is the best explanation for the evidence surrounding the facts surrounding the life and resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth.
Which there are no facts surrounding Jesus. What you have is 3, maybe 4-ish writings that anonymous people wrote that make claims about Jesus. At best, is what you have. So you don't have any actual facts.
Week 2, we asked the question, so what's the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus?
And you didn't provide anything there either, because all you did was give arguments. You couldn't provide evidence for something unless you had archaeological evidence of something. You wouldn't have evidence in that sense. You would have arguments at best. Now, you didn't have anything from archaeology. You didn't have anything of note at all. You had 0 citations. You just had claims.
And we looked at 4 historical facts that need to be explained.
No. You didn't look at 4 historical facts. You looked at 4 things that you decided to call facts, and then demanded that the burden of proof be on somebody to explain those rather than be on you to prove that any of those 4 things happened in the first place.
Fact that Jesus died and was buried. The fact that Jesus' tomb was found empty by his women followers 3 days later. The fact that followers and even enemies of Jesus testified to seeing him and interacting with him alive.
Again, I have to ask, what enemies? What are you talking about? Who? You said this last time and you never clarified then.
After his death. And the fact that his followers proclaimed his resurrection without any previous anticipation of this event.
Also not true, because you had Lazarus be raised up from the dead. So that was supposedly that happened while Jesus was among them. So if they had seen somebody else come back from the dead, then it would stand to reason that people can come back from the dead. It's just nonsense. Anyways.
In that 2,000 years worth of skepticism
has
not produced any alternative scenario, hypothesis to explain all 4 of those accepted historical facts.
And yes, there's been plenty of answers to that. But the burden is not upon us to explain things that have not yet been proven to even be things. Also, you cannot reduce down explanations in such a manner that the only explanation is something that we do not have proof of. Last time I tripped over myself and flung myself into the floor just to prove a point about my door opening. If you missed that, it was hilarious, and then I recreated it later for more hilarity, and then I flung myself on the floor again just in some other random video that I did. I don't even remember when I did that anymore. I think I've fallen on the floor too many times. What was I talking about? I don't know. Let's go back to this, though.
Week 3, last time we were together, we asked the question, so what about suffering and evil? If there's this powerful God who can raise the dead, why do people suffer? Why is there evil? And we learned last week that there's moral evil and natural evil. Moral evil, we learned that we live as human beings with the ability to make free choices. Love requires the ability to choose. And we learned.
Well, that's a claim you've made. You've claimed that love requires this ability. I don't know that that's the case. I mean, love is a chemical. Hypothetically, we could induce people to love each other by just injecting them with that chemical, perhaps. And then there would be no choice involved there. But anyways, you never proved that that was the case. And even if choice is required, why would there be choices that allow for negative stuff to happen be part of the mix? Why not limit it to choices that are always going to come out to be good choices? The answer apparently was orange, orange, orange. And it made my brain hurt.
Learn that choosing to reject God and God's design creates evil. Well, what about natural evil, hurricanes and so on? We learned that we live in a world of dependable laws, which creates the dynamic of cause and effect.
Right. So God created a universe in which bad stuff would happen. Apparently, God couldn't think of a different way to create the universe. Now, I didn't go over this last time, but I think it's a good example of an actual intelligent creation. If you don't mind watching some Rick and Morty for this example. So there's an episode of Rick and Morty where Rick draws this outline of a door with this like magical crayon and shows it to Beth and reminds her about this play place that he created, basically a pocket dimension. And in this pocket dimension, you can jump off a cliff and you won't get hurt because the ground is bouncy. And he says, in the water, you can drink it, no problem. Also, by the way, you can put your head in it. You can't drown in it. That's how amazing this place is. So he designed the place to be completely safe and perfect. Of course, perfection breaks down because of an unexpected element that was introduced by Beth to this realm. But nonetheless, you have an example of a creation made by somebody intelligent that cares about somebody, where she can do whatever she wants there. She can't get hurt. She can't get killed in that realm because he made it in such a way that that was impossible to do. Yet God can't do that, so Rick is smarter than God, I guess, which means that the show's creators are smarter than God, I guess. But whatever. Anyways.
A background against which we can make our choices. And sometimes those laws can work against us. Remember, we learned gravity can be both positive and negative at the same time. Positive for us who are sitting in chairs so we don't hit the ceiling. Negative for a guy who's falling out of an airplane without a parachute. At the same moment, the same gravity is both positive and negative at the same time. Now, whether it be moral or natural evil, God's omniscience and sovereign power is able to use all of these choices and events for his ultimate good. We trust him. We learned that last week.
Well, no, we didn't learn about trusting God last week. You asserted that to trust God, but you didn't really explain why we should trust God at all. Nowhere in that week did you explain that idea. I wonder if you're going to cover your broken, talk to the heart stuff again. That I hope not. But anyways, I'm eager to get to it.
Now, tonight, we're going to address the question, okay, then, so what about other religions?
Yay!
Darren, are you claiming that Christianity is right and all other religions are wrong? Is that what you're saying? How dare you make that statement, that declaration? I mean, Isn't that incredibly intolerant? Isn't that incredibly arrogant? How dare you make such a claim? I was on a flight recently, and I found myself sitting beside a young...
No more stories. Get to the point. God, you non-existent thing.
Woman, she was from New York City. We were flying transatlantic back to North America.
Sure you were.
After completely ignoring each other for the first 6 hours of the long flight, I was so glad she was...
I'm sorry, I don't believe you were ready. You're a pastor. You would not ignore somebody during a flight. You would preach to them constantly the whole flight. I just don't buy it already. So another made-up story, probably. All right, what is it? What's the point? Get to the point of the story.
Like me, she just didn't want to talk. I'm an introvert, actually. I'm fine in front of a big crowd, and I'm fine one-on-one, but I just don't like meeting new people. I shouldn't say that. It's terrible on film. I love meeting new people. I don't mean that way. That sounds terrible. I just mean all you introverts understand, right? So I was on this plane, and I was thinking,
I don't think you understand what the hell an introvert is. You wouldn't be doing the job that you're doing if you were an introvert. God. I mean, seriously, it's like, why insert, I don't know, whatever.
Well, I hope she'll just leave me alone and we won't have to talk. And for the first 6 hours, she must have been feeling the same way because neither of us talked to each other. Until after 6 hours, we finally got into a conversation. It became too awkward. And she asked me the inevitable question after some small talk. What do you do for a living? I usually try to avoid this question since people tend to treat me differently when they find out that I'm a pastor.
No.
Nonetheless, I told her eventually that I was the pastor of a church in Vancouver. And she then asked me what we believed at our church. And I said, well, we believe that every person was created to experience and express the purest love imaginable. She said, created by whom? I said, created by God. She said, which God? And I said, well, the God who created the universe and raised Jesus Christ from the dead. She said, I'm an atheist. I believe there is no God. And I certainly don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead.
Okay, so again, pastor's making up a story. I think that he's making up this story. I don't think that this really went down at all. Not even a little. Notice how she doesn't have a name. What seat are you in? You know, it sounds like a fabricated story. It really does. So I'm wondering if our construct atheist. By the way, I would have asked more questions. I would have said, really? Which God? Oh, the one that made the universe and resurrected Jesus. I'd be like, so which God is that? Because it still doesn't answer the question. And I'd be like, oh, and by the way, who's Jesus? Resurrected? What do you mean by that? How do you know any of this? What God are you? Why not just tell me which God you're referring to? Does your God have a name? It does. Yahweh. Hello. Hello. Why not just say Yahweh? Why don't you say, I'm a Christian? Why not just tell her that? Save the time and trouble of making her guess. This seems like a story that you're making up, Pastor. It doesn't seem like this is a normal conversation. Also, most atheists that I've encountered usually don't say that there is no God. Usually they say that they don't believe in God. That's been the majority of experiences that I've had. Now, an appeal to majority of experiences that I've had is nothing. That doesn't mean anything. It's not valid data collection, nor should it be taken to be evidence of anything at all whatsoever. If we wanted to get some sort of data on this, what we would want ideally is somewhere in the realm of 20,000 plus ish, give or take, different atheists polled on the question of how do you frame your atheism, something like that. We'd have to be very careful with how we worded it, because how you word it can change the person's answer. Also, you need to try to conceal what you're trying to get from the poll, because people sometimes will deliberately throw off polls just for the fun of it. So data collection is extraordinarily difficult work, but at any rate, that's why you get a large number of people. So you get those large number of people, you get all the data, and you find, and you get to the question that you care about, which is, how do you say you're an atheist? Basically, do you say there's no God? Do you say I don't believe in God? Do you say what the bleep is God? What would be your framework for that? And from that, we would get some sort of data. We would get, X amount of people say this, X amount of people say, Z amount of people say that, whatever. I suspect if you did that hard work, which I haven't done, and I haven't even looked at if anyone else has done, but I strongly suspect that if I did look for that, I'd probably find something, and the thing that I probably found would you know what? I don't know what I would find, because I haven't done it, and I won't do it because I'm lazy. So none of this mattered. What was my point? I don't know. Oh, right. It's difficult to do. Anyways, I don't think that it would show, that I would think it would show that atheists tend to say that they don't believe in God rather than that there's no God. But who knows? I could be wrong. However, even if I could show that metadata study, which I don't have and I'm too lazy to get, but I'll look it up if someone really demands me to do so in the comments, like, yeah, look it up. And I'm like, fine, and I'll find something. Okay. It still wouldn't mean that it's impossible for Pastor to find the atheist that does say that there's no God. However, given Pastor's past, with him making up stories in the past, I think it's safe to think that Pastor's probably making up this story. And I think that this woman's going to behave as a construct straw man, a fill-in for the atheist and their argument that Pastor is going to make up in order to knock it down. And how is this going to be related to any other religion? Bleeped if I know.
And then she said this, and this was the key phrase. And there's a bit of a ring, by the way, on my voice here. And then she said this key phrase. She says, it looks like you and I are on completely opposite side of things. But isn't it nice that you have your truth and I have my truth, and we can both live our truths?
Yeah, that doesn't sound like an atheist at all to me. Not even a little. I mean, there's only one truth. There's only one reality to which we ascribe to. And for the most part, again, not to bank on my own experiences because it doesn't really mean anything, but atheists that I've encountered usually are pretty hard empiricists to some degree. Not everybody, but broadly speaking, we tend to be like the show me state, like show me that it's true. We want empirical methodology. At least I do. So I don't think that there would be an atheist that said your truth and my truth. There could be. I'm not saying that there couldn't be. I'm finding this story more and more unbelievable as it goes on. Now, Pastor will point out, I think, that no, there's only one truth, and that's true, but it'll point that out because this is a construct straw man and not a real person. By the way, it's amazing how much he remembers of this conversation, yet he didn't tell us what she looks like at all, or her name. Huh. Amazing.
Did you hear what she said? Did that make sense to you? Or did something sound not quite right to you? She didn't say, you have your beliefs and I have my beliefs and we can both live our beliefs. If she'd said that, I could agree with that, but that's not what she said. She said, you have your truth and I have my truth and we can both live our truths. She said, our truths are opposite, yet both our truths are true because we sincerely believe them because they're our truths. Really? Is that how truth works? Think about this. I say that I believe 2 + 2 = 5. Okay, that's my belief. I sincerely believe that. And you say, well, I believe 2 + 2 = 4. Okay? We both have our beliefs, but are both of our beliefs true? I don't think so. And if you think so, don't go into accounting. Okay? If I believe that 2 + 2 = 5, I'm believing something that's not true. Okay? 2 + 2 does not equal 5. 2 + 2 = 4. I can believe it equals 5. I have every right to believe that it equals 5. I can sincerely believe that 2 + 2 = 5 with all of my heart. I can sincerely live according to my sincerely held belief that 2 + 2 = 5. But I still would not be living according to the truth, because the truth is 2 + 2 = 4. Imagine I'm behind the counter at Starbucks and I give you your change back. And imagine I say to you, okay, you gave me $10, that I got to give you $5 back. So here's 2 and here's another 2. There you go. Have a nice day. Would you say, well, that's true for him, therefore I believe it's true?
All right, get to the
point. Or would you
point.
correct me and say, actually, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5?
Oh, this straw atheist is wearing. By the way, while he was talking, I looked up pewresearch.org. That's pretty reliable reputation of how they go about collecting things. And according to them, at least what they pulled, and we'd have to look at their poll, but according to them, they said 81% of whoever people they polled that said that they do not believe in God or a higher power or in any spiritual force of any kind. So, according to that, I'm right. Most atheists appear to identify themselves in that way rather than saying there's no God. But again, not a clear knockdown victory for me. But, I'm just saying, whatever. I'm pretty right about this. And at least I looked it up. I don't know why I did that or what point I was trying to make anymore. But,
5. 2 + 2 = 4. You still owe me $1.
Blah, blah, blah,
for the
blah,
sake of
blah.
$1. So we hit a record profits last year and today. I mean, why would you point out my error? Because while there may be...
I'm skipping, by the way, in case you're wondering. I'm skipping through this because I just want him to get to the point where he talks about other religions, which he hasn't done yet. So, yeah, I'm just skipping past this point because it's all pointless because it's a made-up story.
Can you think of anything else in life where the stakes are higher than your potential existence beyond the grave? Anything else in life higher than your... Can you think of any times when we can politely look the other way, when the stakes are high, truth matters?
Well, I would say that the truth matters no matter what, regardless of stakes at all. To me, I value the truth. In fact, I consider it to be my duty to the truth. And I got that phrase from Kant, K-A-N-T, Kant, or maybe you say cunt. I don't know. However you want to pronounce his name. He has a book. It's long. It's boring. I don't know if I can make sense of it. I read the shorter version. That one I made sense of. And I don't agree with a lot of what he has to say. But what I did agree with is this idea that he had about truth. Now, he extends it out further than I wanted to. He extended this idea that you should tell the truth all the time about everything. And he referenced Nazis because, again, I guess they were, in that time period or whatever. And he said, like, if they came and knocked at your door and you happened to be hiding Jews in your attic, and they were like, "Are you hiding Jews here?" You should say yes. That's how much he valued the truth. And also he viewed it that concealing truth was also lying, that not volunteering information could be seen as lying to him. I think that's too far. If somebody says, "What's your bank account?" Kant would say, "Tell them your bank account number." Whereas I'd be like, "Why do you need my account number? What are you going to do with it? Why should I give it to you? I don't want to give it to you." So I do like the duty of truth idea, though. I aim for the truth. I try to say things that I think are true. I try to avoid lying and saying something that I know is not true. And I try to diligently stick to this. And it's difficult. Sometimes you have to remain silent because if you say anything, it's going to be a lie. So it's like, I'm not going to say anything because I know I did the thing that was wrong and I don't want to get in trouble. So I'm not going to say anything, right? And then I'm not lying. I'm not telling them what happened. But, I'm not actively lying. And I value that. And I think it's very important. And I think that even if it was the case that the consequence of me telling the truth was going to do something bad, that I value truth more than that I would still say the truth because it matters that much to me. So I don't view it in this level of when the stakes are high, the truth matters. I view it that the truth matters all the time. That's just me, my own personal philosophy that I've wasted your time with. You're welcome. I apologize. Back to the video. Let me know your version of how you feel about the truth, I guess. Yeah, that's how we tie it around.
Can you think of anything else in life where the stakes are higher than your eternal existence? Can you think of anything else in life where the stakes are higher than your potential existence beyond the grave? Why is it that we ignore the demands of truth when it comes to the beliefs and claims of the world's religions? What is it about religious beliefs and claims that somehow place them outside of the realm of investigation and critique?
That would be a good question if you actually were interested in answering it, but you're not. So you're going to screw the answer up. Okay. First of all, you've made several claims in a row here. You said, you asked this loaded question about what could be more important than your potential existence after the grave. Plenty. Because I don't have any evidence that there is anything for me after the grave. The grave is it, more than likely. I don't know. I could be wrong. I look forward to being surprised, but I'm not going to hold my breath because I don't want to wind up in the grave. And also, I just don't expect anything to be there. I don't know. I have no idea what it's like to not be, other than the times I've been unconscious, but maybe those times don't really count. I don't know. But you've framed this question in a way to try to make it into an existential crisis. There might be an afterlife. Okay. So what could be more important than the possibility that there might be an afterlife? I don't know how to even begin to answer that question because, again, this more idea is not something that we've quantified yet. To be the skeptic is to say, how am I going to make this into an actual, concrete, coherent system? You wrote 2 + 2 and 2 + 2 equaling 5 and 4, and somebody commented, you could make 2 + 2 = 5 if you did some fancy stuff with math, and you can, which I don't want to get into because I don't understand math well enough to do it. If you mess around enough in mathematics, you can do some weird stuff. If 0 to the power of 0 = 1, math is weird. Well, 0 to the power of 0 does equal 1, therefore math is weird. Tell me what logical fallacies that makes in the comments below. At any rate, I did it again to my brain. So, there's plenty of things that are important to me, for sure, that I absolutely know are true, that I absolutely know are real. And those things are way more important to me than the possibility that maybe there's an afterlife. What could I do in this life that would really affect that afterlife? I don't know, because I don't know that there's an afterlife. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But if I don't have access to that, then it's pure speculation on my part. And so everything that I do know about would then be more important to me than anything that might be. It's like, maybe there's a person waiting for you on the other side of that door. You haven't opened the door yet, but maybe they're waiting for you. What are they waiting to do? I don't know. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. And I'd be like, well, maybe I'm not going to open the door then. I don't know. Can I open a different door? Maybe I could look to see if there is somebody out there or not, right? But all you're doing is setting up for an existential crisis. The attempt to make us feel like there's something at stake here. Better watch out. Better not cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa knows that you've been good or bad. Well, what's his coming to town have to do with it? I mean, if he knows that already, then who cares? But if you did the good thing, then Santa's going to give you an award. And if you did the bad thing, then Santa's not. But if you did bad, then Santa's going to give you coal, which I think is actually an exploit that we should abuse to fuel the nations of the world. We should all do bad, so we all get coal, right? And then we put the coal into the furnaces, and what? Santa's not real. Damn it! Why didn't somebody tell me this? Anyways, what was I saying? I don't know. Let's go back to the video.
What is it about the religious beliefs and claims that somehow place them outside the realm of objective truth? What is?
Oh yeah. That's what he was saying. Well, the fact is that the claims that you are making are beyond objective truth. If there is, in fact, something after we are dead, there's no way for us to investigate that. at least that I know of. There is no machine that allows us to peer beyond the veil of death and see what's next, unless you have some proposal that does that. Now, some people have tried to make machines that do that. Some people have tried to weigh the soul or discover the spirit or whatever it is you want to call the essence that people think that we have. All attempts at doing this have yielded null results. So the claims that you're making about the supernatural would then be claims that could not ever be demonstrably demonstrated by natural methodology. So every and any claim that you make about magic, paranormal, extrasensory powers, or supernatural, spiritual, or whatever you want to call it, would obviously be outside of the realm of testability, empirical investigation, etc., and so should hold no weight over us in consideration of anything. Not sure how you're going to bring this back to other religions, but I think that my prediction that I made where Christianity is going to do something unique among other religions might come to pass, in that I think that he's going to say that Christianity makes this claim about the afterlife, and that other religions that make claims about afterlives, that maybe they're the only ones that you need to consider. Because after all, if universalism is true, who cares, right? So it's a way maybe that he's going to say something like, now this is what I would do, maybe, or at least the approach that I could take would be, okay, so there's all these religions in the world that are alive, because the ones that are dead, who cares about them? But let's invite those too. Now, there's some religions that time has forgotten. Obviously, we can't investigate those because time forgot them, so they're not on the table. But there's too many to investigate. So how do we narrow our investigation and say, oh, well, here's an idea. Let's narrow it down to the ones that make claims about an afterlife. Why? Well, because I value that, maybe. Okay, or ones that make exclusive claims. We could narrow it down that way. So we say, okay, we're going to ignore all the ones that make universal claims, because if they happen to be true, we're fine and everything's good. Who cares? Okay, so we're going to narrow it down to the ones that make exclusive claims, say ours is true, all the other ones are false. We're going to narrow it down to the ones that include the afterlife because I value that and I want to keep living and existing. And then we're going to narrow it down to the ones that say that if you believe us and you're right, then you get a reward, and if you don't, then you get punishment. And then we're going to look at just those, and we're going to have a very, very narrow view of things. And so that helps us to narrow the playing field, and then we'll investigate those remaining. However, the problem with all that, although I do like this approach of being, narrowing down the field, is we have arbitrarily decided how we're going to narrow the field. And it might turn out to be that one of those other things happens to be true. And you might say, but who cares? If it happens to be that you get reincarnated over and over again until you finally get it right, what's it really matter? Well, then that negates what he said earlier about the truth. If the truth matters, then it matters that you found the truth. But you missed finding the truth because you omitted that as an exploration because you narrowed your field down. So you're back to square one. But I don't think he's going to get that sophisticated.
Is it about religious beliefs and claims that somehow enables two people holding two completely opposite views to both be right? It's irrational. If you say there is no God, and I say there's only one God, and she says there are many gods, how can we all be right? Someone has to be wrong. Someone's view has to be false, no matter how many believe it, no matter how sincerely they believe it, no matter how nice they are. Now, we've got some university math professors in our audience this evening, friends. And when a math professor is marking papers, they don't look at an equation and say, okay, now Robbie here wrote 2 + 2 = 5 on his test. And now Robbie's such a nice guy. He's so generous and kind. And he gives a lot of money to charity. And I've spoken with Robbie about this time and time again. And I know that he sincerely believes 2 + 2 = 5. His entire family believes 2 + 2 is 5. It's been what he's been taught from birth. In fact, the entire country that Robbie comes from has believed 2 + 2 = 5 for centuries. Therefore, because of all this, Robbie's answer is correct. Does that make sense to you? Would you?
Help. Help. No. And I should say that, yeah, not everybody can be right at the same time in the same way, but everybody could be wrong. And that might be the answer. All religions, it appears to me, have been fabricated by humans. Now, not instantaneously in the form that they appear today, mind you. It took time for them to get to where they are. Religions essentially evolve through time as custom and culture changes. The ones that survive are those that are able to change with the customs of the time. The ones that carry narratives that are strong enough to maintain over time, symbols and ideas that are easy to convey, those are the ones that stay around. The ones that don't do that die off. The ones that maybe they got, the civilization that believed it got killed off, that's another way to kill them off. There's a thought experiment that's kind of interesting. I've heard more than once that if we were somehow able to destroy every single religious textbook that exists and wipe the memory clean of all humans about all religions, that what would be around, what would come out, what would be next, what would happen, and those religions would not reappear in the format that they once existed in. There might be religions that come forth slowly, and they might even be very similar. Maybe you might get some exact ones. That's, I don't know how probable that is. But you would eventually get some new stuff because humans are pattern-seeking creatures. But it would take a long time. I think in these thought experiments, it's usually posited that you erase a religion and science completely from the world, and you see which one recovers, and that science would come back eventually, and it would make all the same discoveries again, and religions would come back, but they'd make all new discoveries because they're made up. And that's probably what you would see, is you would see new ideas. You would, and maybe some of them would be similar or this even maybe the same, although again, I don't know. We don't have access to this sort of experiment, so it's speculation. But I do think that yes, religion would make a comeback because humans are pattern-seeking creatures. Unless we erased our memory, and then we supplemented it with, now we're going to only teach how to be a skeptic or something, then that might kill religion for good. I don't know. But the thing is, the claims that the religion makes are not the thing that makes it true or not. Whether it is true or not is what makes it true or not. And we're not investigating that. We're not exploring that here. And one has to almost wonder why that is. Anyways, well, we kind of know why that is. But anyway.
You want that professor as your teacher? Actually, yeah, I probably would. I would have done a lot better in math, I'll tell you that much. Not so good in life, but a lot better in math. Does that sound rational to you? Folks, Robbie is a wonderful man, but Robbie is wrong.
And so are you.
Oh. Now, you may be sitting there right now and you're shouting at me in your mind. You're thinking to yourself, Darren, you are stuck in an old way of thinking. People have their own truths. Truth is relative. Truth is subjective. Truth depends upon how you feel and what you think. There is
No, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, shut the hell up and get to the point already. This whole construct of truth this and truth that, we get it, okay? Now, talk about other religions and whether they're true or not. That's the point of all of this, isn't it? Just get to the damn point. My word.
There's no such thing as objective truth, Darren. Whenever someone that says that to me, and I have heard it many times, I heard it last year from microphones at Skeptic, my first response is always,
Is that true? Oh, you're a moron. I hate you. Okay, so, and you're wrong. Okay, the problem is you don't understand what that means, first of all. Okay, objective truth is different than truth. And also what truth means in that context is very different than what you're using it as. So you're doing all sorts of equivocation. I don't care for it personally myself, and I'm not an advocate of that particular philosophy. For me, I like to keep it a little bit simple because I'm kind of dumb. For me, real in the real world is true. Whatever is true is real. Whatever is real is true. There you go. End of story. It is true that I have this white octopus guy that you probably can't, that shows up really badly on camera. Okay, that's true. Or here, let's do a different guy. Okay, let's do orange guy. Okay, it's true that I have this guy and that he squeaks. Okay, so that's true. All right, that's real. It's in the real world. With all of us, we can share this and experience it and test it. Okay, so that's true. Okay, what you're talking about is beliefs, and some people, for whatever reason, frame the word truth to be equivalent to belief, and so for them, what they mean is that you have your beliefs and I have my beliefs. That is why it's important to ask people, what do you mean by that word? This is natural language. And of course, as a actual real for real skeptic, trademark reserved, that I am, not to do no true skeptic on him. He's not a skeptic though, I'm just saying. But I, actually care about these sort of things. So natural language, you might have heard me talk about this before, but I'll do it again because it's my video. I'll do what I want. Natural language is a very difficult thing. It's something that logic really can't do anything about. I and you are engaged in natural language. What does that mean? What am I talking about? So what it means is I have to assume that you know what I'm saying. Every single word that I'm uttering, I just hope you know what that word means. And vice versa for now, because all of you are in text format for me to read. If I read something, I am interpreting that with how I view these words. And for complicated discussions, like science or philosophy, these discussions that can get really complicated, they don't necessarily have to get complicated. But for these, for many discussions, not just these, but for these discussions, at any rate, we'll talk about other discussions some other time. We want to know what the other person means by X, Y, and Z, because they might mean something different. Now, in his construct strawman of the atheist that he made up earlier, he had them say this whole thing about truth. You have your truth, I have my truth. And Pastor said, well, if they'd said belief, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. The problem is you didn't ask them what they mean by truth. Don't just assume you know what they mean. Ask them. Because what they mean by any given word might be very different than what you mean by that word. There's no, even though you could say, but the dictionary says, well, yeah, that's true. The dictionary might say something, but some other dictionary might say something else. Well, I can get all these dictionaries and they all seem to agree. That doesn't matter. I might use the word in a totally different way despite how everyone else in the world uses it because I can, just because I feel like it, or whatever. And so for the discussion / debate at hand, it is important that you understand what I mean when I say any given word and vice versa. Now, that is not to say I am agreeing that that is how to use the word. It is that I'm tentatively granting you your word. And I've done this. I've done this in debates that I've set up. And I said, look, if we happen to have the same word and want to use it in a different way, it will be word 1 and word 2, and I'll take word 2 because I'm a nice guy. I'll give you the first one. Whatever, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And if possible, I'll find a different word, but maybe I can't. Like the word belief, I view that in a certain way. And so my opponent might view it in this way. So I'll say belief 1 and belief 2, if I couldn't think of a different word to use, okay? So I'll say 1 after his belief every time. So the audience that's listening to it or reading it or both will know that we're talking about their version, and then we'll know when I'm talking about my version. But none of that has been explained by Pastor. None of that has been something that we dove into here. When we're talking about truth, what do you mean by the word truth? That would have been important to start with. Start with the definition of truth. Your definition, a definition, doesn't matter. The definition that you're going to use consistently throughout the presentation so we're all on the same page. If you go out just assuming your audience knows what you mean, you might wind up with an audience that's clueless because they might not know what you mean by it, or they might have a different way of viewing that word than you do. And so why don't we lay it out? They don't have to agree with it, but at least they will hopefully understand it. Now, this happens in natural language because words change, because the way that we use them is different than others, the way that we view them is different than others. In an artificial language, we could construct conceivably a language where one thing means one thing and that's it. That's all it ever means. And you have lots of different words that all just mean one thing. And that would be great because there would be no ambiguity, no disagreement. It'd just be like, oh, you said that? You said Frank? We all know what Frank means is hot dog. That's what Frank is now. Okay. And then you couldn't say Frank walked down the street because nobody would be named Frank because Frank is hot dog. Unless somebody really wanted to name their kid hot dog. Anyways, but we didn't get that here. We didn't get that in-depth thinking that skepticism would really bring to the table because, why do that? Anyways, back to the talk about the truth. I wonder if we'll ever get around to how do we determine if any given religion is true or not? That might be an interesting topic. Are we going to hear him say that?
Is it true that there's no such thing as truth? Because if it is true, it's false. Because you're saying it's true that there's no such thing as truth, which is self-defeating and irrational. There is such a thing as truth. It is literally impossible to deny it. Okay, so what is truth? Here's the definition for truth that I use, and we're going to use this evening. I think it's the simplest and easiest to remember. And that is this. Truth is whatever... See, this is what I had to wait for the water to dry. Whatever agrees with reality. I was going to say whatever agrees with Darren, but I won't do that. Truth is whatever agrees with reality. That's the definition we're going to go with this evening. Truth is whatever aligns and agrees with reality.
You could have just said that.
About feelings. Truth isn't affected by what I think about it.
Ah!
Now, here's the thing. For the next few moments, we're going to hold the three major worldviews of the world up against the light of reality.
All right, finally we get to this. My word! Other than like complain, start with the definition. Okay, just start with it. Forget the analogy and the story and just start with what the hell you mean by truth or whatever. Why are you only going to examine the three major world religions? Wait, you mean Hinduism? It's pretty major, so we're going to look at Hinduism? Judaism isn't a major religion. I mean, kind of is, but it's smaller now than it was. So that would be Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam then, right? Well, it depends when he filmed this, though, I guess. So is he going to just be talking about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam then? Because you're going to leave out Hinduism? It's been around longer. It has just about as much adherence as anyone else. But why only those three religions? There's a lot of religions out there. How did you decide to only use these three? I don't know.
Our goal is to see which worldview best aligns, best agrees with reality as we presently know it. Our goal is to see which worldview appears to be the most plausible. And we're going to do that in the next 30, 40 minutes. And we're going to let you then decide at the end how effective we were in which of those three you think is most plausible. Now, there are all kinds of religions, there are all kinds of worldviews, there are all kinds of philosophies, there are all kinds of theories out there. But when you scratch beneath the surface, they can all be traced to one of the following three general sources. And I've given these to you on your outline, I believe. Secular, Eastern, and biblical. Right? So there's secular worldview, what we'll call, again, we're just using large baskets here to make it simpler tonight, Eastern worldview and what we'll call a biblical worldview. Okay? By secular, that represents atheism, materialism, naturalism, secular humanism. By Eastern...
Wait a minute. I thought you said we were going to examine the three major world religions. Secularism isn't a religion. Did you mean we're going to examine the three major worldviews? Secularism isn't a major worldview. Secularism is, in and of itself, its own thing, just about. And you can find it included in many religions. Although, to some extent or the other, it has to be watered down in some religions, and others it doesn't have to be, depends. But wow, so Pastor just lied to us again. Why am I not surprised at all? We're almost done with this time, and we're going to have another time. Let me get to a point that seems good to wrap this up on.
Here I'm talking about Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Sikhism, Oprah.
What?
By biblical, that represents Judaism and Christianity, and for the sake of simplicity, I will include Islam within this third group, though in the end, we're going to make some strong distinctions even within this group, okay?
You are aware that other religions have holy scriptures, and ones you could even classify as a Bible. You do know what the word Bible means, right, Pastor?
So let's do a quick comparative survey tonight. Your challenge is to decide which of these three worldviews is the most plausible in your mind. Now remember, we're not talking about 100% certainty.
Wow, we're back on this again? So it's not about determining which one is true, which he said at the start really mattered, what was true matters. Now we're just talking about what's plausible. And come up with in your mind, that's a way to evaluate stuff now, apparently. Like just your mind. Don't ask anybody else. Don't talk to anybody else. Don't examine anything. Is that really the system that we're going to be using, Pastor? Wouldn't surprise me. Seems like a good place to end. I think he was on the verge of saying something monumentally stupid or important. Let's find out, and then I'll end this probably. I don't know.
we're talking about which is more plausible. In the end, 51 over 49% is enough to have a justified true belief. To have a.
All right, yeah, that's good enough. We'll end there. We're at 20 minutes and 7 seconds. I'll write that in my thing so I don't forget it for later. Thanks, future self. Oh, my word. Okay, so I made predictions about where Pastor might go, and man, I was off. I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. I was wrong about my predictions. I could not have possibly predicted that Pastor would go this incoherent route, but here we are, examining 3 things that aren't religions, aren't major world religions, and also then not deciding how we determine if something is true or not, but just thinking about it. And then whatever is more probable is the one that you believe in. Not know that it's true, but you just believe in it because you have more percentage in there, which also we don't have a system for how we determine what amount of percentage to assign anything. Yeah, that's good stuff there, Pastor. It also doesn't answer all the question about all the other religions out there, but we're just going to ignore those, I guess, because whatever. This is a horrible way of determining anything. It certainly doesn't help you to get to the truth, whatever is real, whatever is really real, whatever that is. Pastor doesn't have a system here for determining that. But why should we be surprised? We are, after all, listening to an apologetic course and not one on how to be skeptical about anything. I guess I'll see you in part whatever number it is. I don't even know anymore. Where I do more of this. I don't know what I'll name it. Give me suggestions for what to call it in the comments. Or don't. I don't care. Do whatever you want. So, I'll talk to you later. Well, I will talk and you'll listen and it will be that, and then maybe you won't listen and you'll watch, or you might there's a, and then the brain. If you want to talk to me though, like you're like, oh, but Deacon Birdman, I want to talk to you. Like I'll put the Discord thing that I barely use. I'll put that in the chat, and then I'll post it in the comment, and then you can click on that, and I'll be there maybe. And if I'm not there, then I'm not, or whatever. I'm hitting the button now. I don't have a good way to end this video. I'm just ending the video. So goodbye. Man. Oh, whew. Glad I'm done with that. Yeah, what do you want to do now? I don't know. Strip naked. Okay. Oh God, the thing's still on.